All right, this meeting is now being recorded, and by continuing to being in this meeting, you are consenting to be recorded. So welcome everyone, good evening, and welcome to this module 4 webinar. And the agenda, and I'm going to skip this meeting etiquettes part. We are a small group here, and feel free to be on the video, feel free to talk or ask questions in between. I'm sure your classmates are all going to thank you for asking questions on their behalf. So I think being the last webinar, I think I can just skip this part completely. But in any sense, in any way, I'm still going to complete this webinar within an hour or so, or max if I need maybe 5-10 minutes more in case we go over due to questions. Okay, but I'll still keep it short to 1 hour 15 minutes max. So the agenda today, we'll talk about the big data analytics. We'll then talk about assignment 4, which we just started to talk about, and the quiz for the assignment. Then I'll take in any other questions that you may have, any questions on this module, any questions on this course, or anything that you have on mind. I'll be more than happy to help you as much as I can, okay? So with that, first and foremost, I want to do some retrospective here, and I want to say kudos to you all, who is here attending the webinar, as well as if you're watching this recording. You guys all did an excellent job with assignment 3. And you get a feel of, right? Like when you're doing these kind of assignments, like especially in AWS, and you're following the instructions, if you follow it to the T and you cross all the T's and dot all the I's, you go from it's 100, right? You can never go wrong with anything that is required. And as you saw that, you saw wonderful results with it because you all followed the instructions. You all did an excellent job. So I hope that it has been helpful, but you kind of did, and you're understanding what you're actually building. But we'll kind of take a look at it again today as to what you've done in the last 3 assignments, or to say assignment 2, 3, and 4. We'll talk about that soon. But keep up the good work. Your discussion postings had the required depth and quality. Great job on the discussions, right? Love it, love it. I think this was a wonderful topic. I see you guys getting into it. I saw you all kind of participating, asking each other questions, and I asked a few good questions, and you guys had a prompt response. As a matter of fact, very, very good responses with the questions I posed to some of you. So wonderful job again. And that's the kind of discussion that you really want to have at this level, which is kind of going to enhance your learning, right? And this is, again, the last webinar for the current course, but I will strongly recommend that you take advantage of these webinars from the faculty by either attending them live or watching the recordings, because some of the questions that you ask during these webinars, or things that get discussed, is so valuable. Trust me, I was just telling Yelena before you all joined, and I said there was hardly any webinar that I would have ever missed while I was a student, because every webinar would have something in for me, something that I would pick, something that I would learn, something that I would say, oh, I had missed this completely in the classroom. Okay, I'm glad that I'm hearing it in the webinar. So from that perspective, I will highly encourage you all, for your future courses or anywhere you do, or even you go ahead and do your master's, to not miss out on these touch points that you may have. And this is kind of it's becoming more and more premium these days. While most of the coursework and the programs are becoming online, having this kind of session makes you feel that it's like more of a hybrid mode, where you can get some time and some office hours from your faculty, right? So you're treated that way. Okay. All right. So yeah, I do have some questions, by the way. That was my retrospective, my observations. I want to know your observations now. So I'm going to ask you, or maybe even put you on the spot here by putting some of the questions that I have for you here. So was the reading material used in the course enhanced your learning and gave you enough information to complete your discussions, your quizzes, the tutorials, and the assignments?
I would say that most of it did. Some of it was a little repetitive when I read through some things. It just kind of like came over, like they had like some crossover from something else that you read from one
Yeah.
document to another. Other than that, though, I mean, it really drives home some of the points. So that's what I have for at least the reading material.
Thanks for the feedback, Sheldon. Appreciate it. Anyone else wants to join in?
Yeah, from what I've been reading throughout the course, I think it's also helpful to supplement what you can, not just with the supplemental material that you provided, but to look at honestly some YouTube videos as well. Find stuff that could explain it in, say, different learning styles, because I know like a lot of the O'Reilly stuff can get a little bit tedious, where they're just
Yes.
people staring into the camera talking about this stuff without actually having the tangible stuff. Like some of the O'Reilly videos were helpful, but a lot of them have not been, just because they're just staring at a camera for 20 minutes at a time and then occasionally showing you what it is you're wanting to be learning.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
which is why, as I said, it's helpful to supplement what you can, where you can, with people who are more adept in explaining the more visual aspect of what you should be doing, along with the procedural step by step aspect as well too.
Yeah. I hear you. No, wonderful feedback. Thanks, Chase. Anyone else?
Yes. There were a lot of material for this courses. So, all of them was very interesting when you are, and especially most of the video, some were very, very, very long. Like, I think we have like 45-minute video, 1 hour video.
Yeah.
Instead, on top of that, you got some material to read.
Yeah.
All of them were very interesting. The only thing, sometimes you feel exhausted. Sometimes, I mean, especially me, I feel so exhausted sometimes, maybe because I have another class I'm taking at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit difficult to watch all those videos, read all the material, but it was very interesting.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't know if a good time to ask the question now, or can I ask you
The assignment and the quiz, you mean?
No, for the assignment. There's another question related to the course.
Oh, okay. Yeah. If you could just hold on till but we'll definitely get to that. We'll of course.
Okay, yes.
But no, this is good, excellent feedback.
Okay.
And thank you guys for being, sharing your very open, honest, and feedback here, because that's important. And I'll just say that not in defense of the material here, but I'll tell you, we did try to kind of mix and match with what is there. Like sometimes, some of those material that could be like scholarly articles or material that would be like O'Reilly or from like that, you would see that there's a lot of reading, or maybe a video is too long. I get that, guys. One of the reasons why we kind of tend to also look at things that could be external, that could be on YouTube, right? On things where, it could be a little bit more, made a little more interesting, maybe even shorter. Yeah, because of kind of doing that mix and match, I completely agree. There's going to be some overlap, because everyone's going to try to kind of build a base for what they're going to talk about before getting right into it. You may have already gone through A, B, and C and start, okay, the next video should start with D, only to find out that next video probably starts with B and C again. And I get that, guys, trust me. But I think just from an advantage perspective, it kind of refreshes your memory about some of the content that you may have already gone through before. But I hear you, and I'm sure there's going to be an opportunity for us to kind of refresh some of that material, and maybe even, if there's an opportunity to cut short, we'll try to do that. But there's a lot that goes on in this course, because this is kind of building you, and it's going to take you much closer to the end of the degree, where you'll be very soon, you'll all be working on a capstone project. So these last few courses, you're going to find it a little more exhaustive, a little more, in depth, a little more, taxing from a perspective of, oh my God, I was just spending 2 hours to get my, things done, and I'm spending here hours and hours, and yet I'm not finished with what I need to do week by week. I know the feeling. I've been there myself as well before. But as I said, it's just making sure you're going to be prepared for what is out there, what is going to be there for you when you work, when you put up your capstone, or even after that degree, right? We want you to be prepared, and that could wait. But your feedback, very much welcome. Thank you again. My next question, was the Google Colab tutorial worth the time, and was it a valuable experience gained from it? I'm assuming that you all guys have attempted the Google Colab tutorial that was, part of the course, and was that even worth your time?
I've used Google Colab in past classes, so it was just kind of like a repeat, I guess, for most of it. So it was just kind of a nice refresher.
Okay. Anyone else have anything
Yeah,
different?
I pretty much echoing what was said right before there too.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's just like I still prefer Spider. Like
Okay.
for me, it's just like
Yeah.
I don't like having to be bound to the cloud aspect when I'm still just in the middle of the debugging and still actually writing this stuff. So I mean, it may be helpful because in prior courses, some of the code has been given to me in its entirety, and it's easier to work in Colab with already completed stuff.
Stuff, yeah.
But if you're generating new code, I honestly prefer still doing it on a local hard drive, like
Yeah.
by something
Yeah.
like Spider. But it's the
Yeah,
point
yeah.
being the tutorials. Yeah, it's still helpful covering gaps that I might have missed
Right,
in my
right.
prior
It's
experience.
more for the concept perspective, right? I mean, the other advantage, Chase, that we have working on cloud environment is, you don't get into the limitation where, you have a particular type of machine or particular type of memory or the computing power.
Mhm.
You can kind of grab that little more and have little more extensive amount of resources that you would typically get from whatever whatever you'd be working on at home, right? A personal laptop or iPad or whatever that could be, right? So it kind of takes away that element there, which could limit you to kind of work on a particular assignment or get into multiple issues, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
fair.
computing resources is huge. And that's why you would, and that's where a lot of enterprises are going today, right? You'll see a
That's true
lot of
too.
major companies, they're all going to the cloud. So
Mhm.
having that knowledge, building that skills is going to be vital, very important. Okay.
Yeah,
So no,
that's
and
a very
I
good point.
agree with you. I'm with you, Vic. I'm a developer at heart. That's how I started my career, Chase. And I would love to, kind of do things, debug things on my laptop, on my machine. But then I saw the limitations and I said, oh, okay, it's time that I kind of, take this forward somewhere, because my machine is not going to be able to handle all this now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's cool. So that's why I love Code Lab. I know it
yeah,
because
yeah,
I use a Jupyter and Spider.
yeah,
It wasn't for this class, but it was something similar. Oh
yeah.
my goodness, it was like kind of with Code Lab, I think it's more easy and it's more faster than than
Right,
Jupyter
right.
and
Yeah,
Spider.
exactly. That's what I've near. That's what I
Yeah.
meant. But yeah. So the next question, now that we talked about Google Colab, was the AWS Academy easy to use and intuitive? What do you guys think about that? The lab, that AWS lab that you started to use in assignment 2.
Yes, it
Uh,
was easy. It was easy. I
Okay.
mean, it was easy because all the instruction was easy to follow.
Right, right, right.
So I don't know if in the company in the real world we will be able to work that to work that again. But because you give all the every instruction was very easy for me to follow. I don't know about the other student, but for me it was really easy to follow.
Okay, okay, excellent
Yeah.
feedback.
Did I understand everything? Maybe I understand 50% of all the material.
Okay,
But
yeah,
for the assignment for sure was very easy to follow.
excellent, excellent. Okay,
Uh,
yeah, thanks for the feedback. Anyone else have any other feedback?
yeah, basically the same thing. It was pretty easy just to follow along with the worksheet and kind of go along with what was going on the screen.
Yeah, Yeah. Okay. No, very, very good. And trust me, guys, one of the reasons why we chose AWS is also the fact that it's one of the market leaders, right? As Avnir was saying, you don't know whether this is something that you would take it forward or you would do it in future. But trust me, AWS, these are the market leaders we're talking about. AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud. You talk and you work in different enterprises outside, you will see that these are now being seriously used. I mean, all the companies that have been kind of, I see all the major 20 companies, not even going further than major 20 or major 50 or 100, even I'm talking about the major 20, 25 companies, so much involved and invested into, these cloud environments these days. So yeah. And I'll kind of again bring up, I have a slide that I'll be talking about how, which ones did you really want to kind of, or what you want to do next from here. My next question is what the instruction provided. I think you alluded to that, but I would still ask if there was any other feedback. But I hope the instructions that were provided for you for the tutorials and assignments were clear and to the point.
I mean, and the one that I brought up to your attention prior to the week starting, like that was the only one that I had a problem with because it looked like AWS had changed its platform.
Right. Yeah. I know the starting hiccups and it could be some issue there, but yeah, they see one of the downsides, right, of the cloud environment is that it's so fast evolving, right? That all of a sudden they want to provide more and more features, and these kind of keep changing. And sometimes you could be blindsided to something that could be changing, and without notice. So yes, these are some of the downsides of using a real time or a production environment, because they want to kind of make sure they kind of every day they are every other day they kind of evolving, trying to pull up something or the other that can sometimes change things at our end, and maybe we have to again fast evolve. But I think we kind of learning that maybe some of these things we want to kind of keep working on and keep looking at and checking if anything has changed. But yeah, that's something that we will have to kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, agreed, Sheldon, that's something to keep in mind, and that was a good lesson learned as such, if you will. Okay, alrighty. And my final one, I hope you have a plan to practice and take this learning forward, and we'll talk about that, right? How you want to kind of take this forward. But if not, start thinking about like, what are you going to do next, right? How are you going to take this? You have the lab even after this course ends. So Avnir, you pointed out that, you probably not know 50% or don't even remember the 50% of things you would have done. And it's fine. That's exactly what happens when you are a student and you're working through the courses. You're under the pressure of trying to complete something at a certain time, that you would lose track of what you're doing. You're just simply following the instructions, but you miss out on the bigger picture. And I think maybe after the course ends and when you still have the AWS lab and you still have the free credits, one of the reasons why I kind of always emphasized a lot on making sure you clean up what you've done in the lab so that you get those free credits there for a longer period of time, where you can go into this lab and say, okay, I want to do more, right? I want to repeat this exam. I want to understand the big picture. What did I really do? Because, Lanesh was telling us that, yeah, you guys did a fantastic job. You made this up. You put on this architecture. But let me see if I really did that, and how was it really? And how was it really done? Can I do it all by myself again? And please, as a matter of fact, encourage you strongly to do that. Take your assignments, run it after the course is done, and without the pressure, right? Without any pressure of delivering it or completing it on time. Try to run it, try to get that big picture. That's important. And if you learn these concepts, trust me, it's not throwaway concepts. What you're learning in AWS, you'll be able to carry it in other cloud environments as well. And I'll talk more on that, but it's important that you plan, right, to practice and take this learning forward. Make a commitment, and that's going to be important for you to do that. Okay. All right. So where are we in our journey? you kind of learned, or you actually did some ingestion of files into in any kind of environment, or in this case, you learned about the AWS environment, how you would kind of pull in the files, or whether even in Google Colab, or whether and you've been, even prior to this course, you learned how to kind of ingest your files, you upload your files, you upload your data, pull in your data. And we also learned in module 2 about the big data storage. What are all the different kinds of big data storage that is out there? Within your assignments, you used AWS S3 as a data lake, right? So you kind of made use of that big data kind of a storage facility that's available within AWS. You also learned about big data processing in module 4. You made use of AWS EMR, right? For your big data processing. You put up a Jupyter notebook and use PySpark, the power of PySpark, to kind of process the data, right? So you learned that in module 3. And now you kind of shifted to learning about big data analytics, right? Trying to gain more insight through visualization, learn about streaming, right? How are you going to, build this fancy dashboards or charts for the data, and then kind of and gain good insight into your data. So that's where we are right now, right? In module 4, learning all about big data analytics. Okay. So now that you kind of have come this far and spent more than 7 weeks in this course, and even in your data science degree, right, in your journey in knowing about data science, I think you come this far that let's take a stab at these statements, right? And I'm not testing, once again, really not testing you guys. So don't get me wrong. These statements are not to put you on the spot, to test you, but it's going to be important. You as I keep saying, right? These are the statements that this could be like as questions that could be asked to you as being a data science major. You'd probably be at a workplace and people will be making such statements that you will have to really validate, or maybe even correct them based on what you learn or what you've learned from your peers here. And also, as data scientists, you really want to know this pretty well. So I'm just taking a few statements here and see, let's go over them. They may or may not be like just any right or wrong answers, right? So that's okay too. But let's go over them one at a time. Doing any analysis on big data is called big data analytics. What do you guys think about this statement? Everybody's quiet. Nobody wants to take a
I
stab.
mean, I'd say it's generally true, but I feel like it's a little bit reductive. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's fine, Chase. That's good. It's good that we have this question, that we have this thing to talk about now very soon. So okay, Avenue.
Yeah, I don't know why we got to put big data analytics. So for me, data analytics should be enough.
Okay.
Since we are working on data, doesn't matter if it's big or small, and soon we are trying to get some insight from the data. It's a data analytics for me.
Okay.
So big data, the big data, I mean, it can be there, but for me, it's not really important to say big data analytics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Sheldon, do you have any other? You have a different say on this?
Not really. I mean, I guess if you do an analysis on big data, you can call it big data analytics if you want to or not. I mean, it just depends on who you're talking to.
Okay. No, very good. No, thank you guys for sharing your take on this statement, and let me share mine, right? Let's break this down. So what is analysis in general? Analysis is a process of breaking down complex system or data into small, manageable parts or components in order to understand it better. Let me repeat this. Analysis is the process of breaking down large, complex system or data into small manageable components or pieces in order to understand it better, right? And this, as I said, the complex system of data could be, in terms of data, could be any type of data, customer records, financial, reports, or financial data. Systems could be a financial system, or maybe an inventory system, a purchase system, or sales system, right? We're trying to understand that. Or it could be even a scientific research, right? So that's what analysis is, a pretty high level term that could, where it could be used. Whereas analytics, very similar, but analytics is basically making use of a complex, simple or complex mathematical or statistical techniques or tools to kind of analyze your data, right? So that's where the subtle difference is. And this statistical techniques could involve, this whole thing could also involve, the analytics may involve machine learning as well. So if you're applying machine learning or statistical techniques or machine learning algorithms to your data, it just becomes analytics, right? That's why you label the term analytics for that, right? So that's a subtle difference between analysis and analytics. So, and doing an analysis on big data, well, you could be doing something, very simple, not even applying any kind of statistical techniques or machine learning, and you could still call it big data analysis. But if you're doing more than that, then it would be doing analytics, right? And if you're doing analytics on really huge data, which you all learned what big data is, then it becomes big data analytics. Make sense, guys? Does this help?
Sense. That makes sense.
Okay, excellent. All right, so let's see what do you think about this now? Now that we just had this discussion, data science, data analysis, and data analytics all mean the same.
Well, that's obviously not true after what we just spoke about. I think
Yeah, I
these
just gave it
have,
away.
pieces inside of each other, though.
Yeah.
Like you use parts of data analysis and data analytics in data science, or vice versa with some of the others.
Yeah. So data science is a larger umbrella. You're right, absolutely right. Where this umbrella has all the different types of toolkits, all mathematical, statistical, machine learning, all these tools and techniques form, and any kind of research still that continues, that all kind of forms as part of the data science large umbrella. And based on what tools, techniques that you used underneath this umbrella for your data would be considered data analysis or data analytics. Okay, make sense? All right. So when you use cloud computing with big data and run your analysis on cloud, then it is big data analytics. What do you guys think?
If the cloud computing implies some use of machine learning, then being applied to it, then yes. But not necessarily, because you could still just be cloud computing and then just do a cursory analysis with your peers.
Right. Yeah, so it may or may not be, depends on, like, as you said, what are you doing with your big data? But just because you're on cloud, are you doing cloud computing does not mean that it's big data analytics. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, thank you. All right, any questions? Is everything, all these three statements clear to you all? Any questions here? You good?
No questions from me.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this module was very interesting. This week was interesting. You learned about the 5 C's. You did take a stab at one of the 6 case studies that were presented to you, and you put up your own thoughts, your comments to it. And I once again, I don't want to kind of bring it up and kind of go over the 5 C's again, but I do want to kind of bring it up here for discussion on that I'm going to have next after this, which is taking that further into what kind of tactics would you have to build as a data scientist. What tactics would you apply to see that you can get to those 5 C's, or you can meet these framing guidelines, right? So you learned about the 5 different framing guidelines and just listing them, one at a time and briefly talking about them. Consent, right? The consent meaning agreement between the party that is collecting the data and the party providing to it, right? That's the consent part, right? And very important, right? If it is between 2 businesses, typically the businesses go back and forth on what is agreed upon, what is from a data perspective, what is being collected, what's not going to be collected, and how it all that happens. There's a negotiation that happens, right? But as an individual, when you're probably, let's say you're signing up for an app or signing up for a social media platform, what happens, right? At that point, you're basically either consenting to it or not consenting to it. If you do not consent to something that is out there, don't agree upon, what happens in that case? It's like a binary thing, right? It's either you consent or not consent. If you don't consent, you're probably out of that platform. You're not probably going to go forward with, building up your account there or using their services or using their app, right? It's like a binary, flip-flop. You either consent or not consent. With 2 businesses, there may be some negotiations that happen, but the consent is a big C there, right? The number 1. Next is the clarity, right? When you kind of sign up for any kind of services or to a platform, or do you have a clarity, right, about the data and how this data is going to be, what kind of action are going to be taken, what consequences would it have? And that's important, right? Having to know that is very important. Now, how many times, and this is, we are all guilty about, that we really go and read through the entire fine print when you're saying, many a times it says, do you agree all the terms and conditions? You just would kind of mark there, you would just mark it and say, yes, I agree, right? We are all guilty of not sometimes reading through the fine print, the entire fine print, and knowing what data is going to be used and how it's going to be used, and what does that mean, right? So yeah, that's important. The clarity is another big C there as a guideline there. The next guideline is consistency and trust, right? Can you trust that company, right? And if the company is around for a long time, it has built some kind of a reputation, and a good reputation, I mean, then I mean, that probably that company has been consistent with what it preaches and how it uses your data, and how it kind of puts these agreements out, or makes everyone understand what they're doing. So there's some trust that is built, some consistency that you've seen over the years, that how, whether the company has really broken the customer's trust or not, you've seen that, right? So that also kind of comes into play whenever you kind of get into, like, or think about this particular C, right? Control and transparency is another factor, right? Whether you have a control on how organization uses and discards your data. I'll tell you something. How many times have you really questioned or thought about, when you are on a particular app or your social media platform, and let's say you exit out of that app or platform? Does that mean that do you know if that platform, the app, or the company is pulling your data off? Is that removing your data, or is it going to stay there forever, right? Do we know, did we see that in the fine print? Did we get that clarity on that? Can we trust this company with it? Do they have any consistency? Important, right? Very important. How, or if you would have consented at some point, would you have a way to take off this consent, or ask them to take it away and say you're not going to consent any further? Now, when you do not consent any further, would they take your data off from that platform, right? So very important to understand that. Maybe certain times certain app services or applications or platforms that you are really working with, doesn't matter, you're not shared too much, but in some places you do share too much, right? Some of these applications or platforms ask you lots and lots of your personal data, your personal information. It's important that you have some kind of transparency, or the company has the transparency built in, so that they can, build a trust with you, saying, guys, don't worry. Once you're off our platform, once you're off our app, your data is gone forever, right? We do not use your data for any reason or purposes. And the last C is the consequences, right? Can your data cause any harm to an individual or a group, right? Are you going to be, very clear about your consequences? By the company that can demonstrate and exhibit and use these guidelines, it helps you to kind of get on board with and do business with them. Same thing as a business, you would want to think about these guidelines. How are you going to provide your clarity, the consistency, the control, provide the transparency, and understand, and making your customers understand the consequences. You as a data scientist would have to build this in, right? You as an organization, as a company, would have to think about this, because only when you think about these 5 C's and how these things are being implemented in your system is how you're going to get your customers in, your customers trust, and more customers, right? So that's important guidelines to follow. Now, as a data scientist, what tactics would you apply, right? I mean, yes, well said. Okay, we know. Okay, got it. You got all the 5 C's there. But as a data scientist, what can you do, right? As a business owner, what are some of the tactics that you can adopt? What as a company you can adopt, right? So first and foremost, maybe maybe one of the things that you can think about is data encryption, right? You have, if you are, storing or collecting some very essential data elements like SPY, like sensitive personal information, or just personal information, right? Which may not be very sensitive, but it could be still a good identifier of a person, right? Maybe my name, my age, my gender, my house address. They may not be sensitive, but they are important personal information. Sensitive could be my passport number, my driving license number, my social security number, right? If you are collecting some sensitive information, one of the tactics you can adopt is data encryption, right? Now, this is little heavy duty because it involves making use of, and I say heavy duty meaning, a little more technical, because it involves making use of certain tools and techniques for encryption, right? And techniques that can really help your data. And even if it falls in wrong hands, they're not going to be able to decrypt and make use of their data. Although nothing is fail-safe and completely bulletproof or completely safeguarded, right? There's always going to be, ways to kind of still decrypt it. But if you encrypt it, and if you really, are going to really pay attention and going to make use of tools and techniques that are really good and maybe help your customers understand that you're using some encryption, or you're encrypting your actual this kind of data, that's going to gain some more trust from them, right? They would know, okay, even if they are giving you are collecting this data from them, they know it's in the safe hands, right? Because you are not just taking it as is, but you're encrypting this kind of data. The other things that you can do, and maybe this is not heavy duty or as much as encryption, but the other thing could be data masking, right? You can encode or mask identity, like you can, code certain things in your, you can change the way certain things are being represented in your data, right? Maybe how your address is represented, how your age is represented, how other personal identification is represented. You can just code things, right? Instead of saying a certain city in a certain way or a certain country, you can give different codes for each of these things, right? And of course, you will have a master copy of that so that you can make sense out of it. But the point is that even if it falls in wrong hands, they would not kind of make sense out of this. Say, what is going on? What are these codes here, right? Or you can even mask it, right? Haven't you seen like many of those systems and documents where even if you type the entire thing, they would ask you only for the last 4 digits, or even if you have put in the entire social security number, all 9 digits, the first 5 digits are masked, right? You'll see XXX or whatever it starts or an asterisk, and you'll see only the last 4 digits there. You can mask those data there. Once again, when you as an individual or someone, your clients or customers see how this data that you're presenting, even displaying it, or how you're storing it, it gives them, it gives you, right? I mean, you get more, you can then trust the system more and say, oh, okay, they're really going to be, going to keep this data very safe and secure, right? So this is another technique that you can apply. Data augmentation, right? Now, we talked about, there were a couple of, I think the case studies there about the school data, right? About in the school, or even the hiring, by machine, that kind of a case study where you could say, what if the students say that their data, or the parents come in say that don't use that student data, and ask questions to a few of your classmates, and they're saying, okay, what if that happens, right? And let's say there's almost 25% of the students are now, their parents say, don't use my students, my child's data. What do you do in that case, right? Would you just take it off? Well, easier said, but once again, if you are into the business of trying to analyze this type of student data, make sense out of it, or take certain decisions, or make certain decisions based on it, or maybe build some models based on that, or statistical or machine learning models, you really don't want to kind of do away with that kind of data. It's good data, right? And for that purposes, maybe you want to increase the diversity, maybe not just throw away, but maybe use some techniques that can still bring the data in. Not saying that you want to kind of just fudge that or lie that, or maybe leave any traces of of that student in that data set. Maybe if this particular student doesn't want to be part of the data, you don't want to have any kind of reference of that student of the data. But can't we use certain things, certain techniques in order to kind of bring that data in, like the ghost records in there, so that it can still help you to kind of make or build models, right? With that kind of a data. So once again, not trying to say that you be unethical and still go on and add the data. I'm saying there would be ways to kind of say, okay, I'm not going to use a student name. I'm not going to use any kind of information about the student, so that even if somebody is going to open this up, they're never going to find out whose student data it is. And that's important, right? For any student, not just the ones who have not consented, but even the ones who have consented, you still want to make sure that no student is going to be identified. Same way with the hiring, right? If you're using some candidate data, make sure that if somebody has not consented, that they're never going to be represented in the data in any way. There's not going to be any reference to it. But you still don't want to delete the other elements of that particular person, student, or client, or customer, whatever that is. Okay, and that's what we mean by data augmentation. Add records to represent those that may not have consented to be part of, right? And in a different way, and not in an unethical way. Then you have humans being part of decision making, right? Not any decision making can be automated. And see if you can add in humans in the process in some way. Yes, many folks I've heard, they've gone over to the automation part and completely done away with human beings to say avoid bias. I get that, right? We as humans can bring in bias in decision making. At the same time, when the machine is doing something, then you want to make sure if whatever it did is right or not, because it could be completely blindsided on certain things, certain aspects, certain factors that you as humans know about it and can correct it. So at least having an oversight of that the decision making process, having a human in the process is really going to be helpful. And last but not the least, ensure that you have a way to validate the consequence, or your output is you can explain the output of the model, right? You understand why the machine learning model is the way it is, right? that what is the output here? What is going to be the consequence here? Do I understand how this model is built or what this model means here, right? That is going to be very important. And if you cannot explain the model, then once again, it's not a good model for you then, because you don't know. It's a black box for you then, right? So as a data scientist, you do not want to accept any black boxes, right? You want to build a model that you understand it very well, right? Okay, so I hope this helps. And there are many more techniques, guys, and we can just, this is a subject or a course in itself, if you can, because now ethics has become a huge thing now that we've matured in this whole journey, right, of data. A couple of decades back, we were just we did not have as much data as we are having today, and we were not dealing with the issues that we are dealing with today in terms of being ethical, or which data can we use, or how can we use, right, or what could be throwaway or what could not be throwaway data. So I think all this is going to be important. There are going to be many more, and there are many more techniques, but these are some that we can at least as a starting point can use. Okay, any questions?
Oh, no questions from me.
Okay, excellent. So as I was just saying, right, where are you in your journey, and how are you going to plan to practice what you've learned, right? So I was just talking about that, what you've learned or what you've learned in this course or in AWS. Of course, you can go back and redo some of your exercises, your assignments, your tutorials, but there are other cloud platforms too, and as long as you know the concept well, you can really apply it in any of this cloud environment, right? They may have different terms, different components may be named differently in each of these places. Like for example, like in AWS, you use something called EC2 for a machine, right? Building a machine. In Microsoft Azure, you would call it a virtual VM or a virtual machine, right? It means the same, right? Maybe there's a data proc in Google, in GCP, and maybe it's an EMR in AWS, right? So there are different words being different terms, or different words being used, or different components being named differently. But as long as you know the component, what you want to do, yeah, you know your architecture, if you know the problem, define the problem well. And if you define it well, okay, I need a virtual machine, I need a EMR processor, I need a big data storage like S3. Okay, what do we have which can be mapped to S3 in Azure? I'm using Azure, I'm using GCP. Okay, what do I use in GCP to store all my data, like, or in a data lake, right? What will I use in GCP to do what EMR does in AWS? So this way you can map your components in each of these different cloud platforms. And many of these cloud platforms were off limits for us because, again, they were not as cost effective or inexpensive as they are. Some of them are today, which have got all these different things that are thrown in now, free credits, or free for 3 months, or you get $100 credit on sign in, and so on. So there's a lot that these companies kind of provide these days to kind of just get you on or do business with them. Take advantage of that, right? Maybe not all, you're not going to spend a lot of money to kind of go through all of these, and you really don't have to take certification in each of these cloud platforms. I would not advise. Yeah, if you need one, if you really like one, yes, by all means. I'm not going to preach one way or the other. All I'm saying is just to go through these platforms and do what you've done here in AWS. It's not going to take a lot, right? It's not going to really take a lot from your pocket in order to kind of do that. But having an understanding is really going to help you. It's going to be huge on your resume as well. Okay, so think about that. And then I'm just leaving this particular link with you, which I'd kind of shared in my previous webinar as well. And this is about the top 10 big data frameworks for 2022. Well, you may say where we are already in the middle of 2023, but trust me, some of these tools have been around for quite some time. They're still very much relevant today. I've cut short this video to maybe like 5 or 7 minutes max. I did that editing to ensure that you don't have to really go through it all. So take a look at it, spend a few minutes. But trust me, this is not a long one. This is not the one where you'll have to spend like 45 minutes to an hour. This is just a few minutes of your time, okay? And if you get a chance. So let me just leave it, food for thought on, just on the module, on this course. So how would you take your learning about big data analytics forward? And how do you plan, to practice knowledge and skills that you've learned during this week, this module, and this course? And have you researched in areas to find big data sets or databases of processing technologies and analytics-based components for practicing your skills? Okay, so just something for you to think about and plan for after you end this course, okay, or this module. All right, so with that, I know, just let me do a quick time check. We are okay, so we have 8 more minutes, and so I think I'll probably need 15 minutes. So we may go over a bit, guys, if you don't mind, maybe 5 to 10 minutes max, as that kind of thought, but nothing more than an hour, 15 minutes. We'll definitely have a hard stop, or maybe we'll be done in the next 8-9 minutes. Okay, so no worries. Let's keep going. So what I want to kind of do next is talk about your assignments, and I want to kind of also respond to the question that Avnir asked, previously, because that's important for you guys to know, especially on assignment 4. So what did we do in assignment 2, right? In assignment 2, we had a bunch of files. We kind of got that data in the files, and we brought it over into in your data lake or Amazon S3. We run a crawler on that data, and we got a catalog, right? We got a databases, we got a database created, we had the tables within the database created. And when you did that, it also automatically created an ETL job, right? So in case you have more data to come in, you could just apply that job and basically get in more data as well. And that's why you created an ETL job, as if you are not realized that, but you did, right? So you kind of did that, and then using Amazon Athena, you analyzed your data, right? You ran queries on the data, you found out about it, and you did some analysis there with the data, right? That's what you did in assignment 2. In assignment 3, you kind of take that a little forward, right? You added another piece to it, which is adding an Amazon EMR, a heavy duty platform, or a big data processing platform, which included Splunk. Which included Spark. And then you use PySpark, right? You use a PySpark notebook to run and to process the data that you would have loaded in data lake and processed through EMR. So, and of course you used Athena as well. And that's what you did with assignment 3. Then you are now in assignment 4. What you're going to be doing is using a streaming kind of a data. You're going to still bring it into S3. You're still going to make it go through the crawler and build the database and tables. Yeah, and you're going to use the Kinesis, Firehose. So you're going to be using that to kind of bring in a streaming data into it, and then using Athena and QuickSight, you are going to Amazon QuickSight, you're going to build a dashboard, like you're going to build chart, a nice visualization for the data that you're bringing it in. And there's an additional component and an optional component that after you run the streaming data for some period of time, you're building the dashboard, then you can again go back and get in more data for a few more minutes, some streaming data that for a few more minutes, and then you're going to get this chart refreshed again. It's kind of mimicking a real life kind of a situation where you can see that, hey, I got this nice dashboard, and when the data is coming in at real time, this dashboard gets refreshed, right? In some cases, the dashboard gets refreshed every few seconds, and in maybe a few minutes or few hours, every few hours, or maybe a few times in a day, right? That's what typically would happen in companies that are constantly working with streaming data, right? So that's what assignment 4 is. And just to give you a few more details, there's assignment 4, right? So what you will do, you'll run through this assignment, make sure you are going to download the assignment answer sheet from the lab, because as you go through this assignment, you're going to make a note of your answers to those questions, to those queries. You're going to take down the answers and note it in your answer sheet. And this answer sheet is going to be very important to, when you do your quizzes, right? And I know I got a question, if I'm doing everything in the quiz, why am I putting all this in the answer sheet? And the answer to this question is the reason is because there could be like 20, 25 questions that you may be answering or going through, with your assignment. And it is quite likely you may not get all 25 questions on the quiz, right? You may or may not. So you may want to be prepared with all your answers. And even if you answered only 10 questions in the quiz, you've addressed it all 25 questions that could be there as part of the assignment. And that's the major purpose of the answer sheet. And that's why, please do not skip the step of not downloading the answer sheet from the lab. So get the answer sheet, you have the assignment description document, and then once you're done with this, you move on to the quiz. And please do not just save the quiz, submit it once you're done. I will have to, there's some auto grading, but there's some portion which is manually graded by me. I will be going in to check your answers for some of these quiz questions, right? And that's the reason why I said it's not all fully auto graded. It's manually graded. Okay, and that's why you may see for the first time, you may get a shock or surprise. What happened? I did answer everything and I get a 30% or 25%. What happened? And yeah, but as soon as I go through it, you see your points bump, because I go on to grade it. I find everything is right, and I just let it go and let the machine kind of do the answering and give the points to you. So do not be shocked or surprised. But one thing, do not leave it in the draft mode. I need you to complete your quiz, right? Submit it. Once you submit it, it comes to me and I'll grade it. Okay, I hope that helps. I hope that helped you, Avnir. Was that the question you had, or was that a different question? I think we lost Avnir. Okay. I think we lost him. All right, but I hope he's able to watch the section of this webinar video and then get the answer to this question. But Sheldon and Chase, are you guys okay? Any questions on assignment 4? What we just went over?
I already completed it. It's pretty you just kind of walk through the steps.
Okay, good. All right. Okay,
I'm still catching up, as you know, so
yes.
Everything's going to be, you're going to get all the deliverables for the course, hopefully by Monday or so.
Good. We'll look forward to it, Chase. We'll look forward to it, and good luck. But trust me, and Sheldon can tell you that, it's if you follow all the instructions, absolutely, and you follow it, everything, it should be all perfectly done. Okay.
Yeah.
So no worries on that. They are now all, everybody's kind of gone through that, and we've seen that we haven't really got to any kind of an issue with AWS at this point. Okay.
Yep. Duly noted. Thank you.
Okay. Alrighty. So this is just a scenario that, it's a scenario is that for the assignment 4, you're working for a stock brokerage firm as a data scientist, and they would like to build a proof of concept of the application that will help them visualize and analyze stocks pricing data almost on a real-time basis. So they've approached you to build this proof of concept using their enterprise AWS-based cloud environment. So we made this scenario up, which could be, true, right? In real life, you could have a different scenario, and you could have a streaming data like of stocks data kind of coming in, like every second, every minute kind of coming in. So in order to kind of mimic that, we are using one of the AWS service called Amazon Kinesis Firehose, which is used to kind of bring in a streaming data. And it also has a demo feature which lets you kind of generate that streaming data for a period of time. So that's what this assignment does. It kind of lets you kind of use this demo feature to generate the data and then bring it in through Kinesis and Kinesis Firehose into your S3 and take it from there. So that's what the scenario is, and that's what basically is to be done. And this is the kind of a format of the data, which just doesn't have too many fields, right? It does have just a very few fields like ticker or sector, and then ticker symbol on sector and the change on and the price. That's pretty much it. That doesn't have too many fields. It just brings in lots and lots of data. So if you wait for like half an hour, it will stream in a lot of data for you to kind of visualize it on the dashboard using QuickSight. Okay, so pretty much the same prerequisites. So I'm not going to go over this. You know that, you know the drill. But the instructions, I think I just did it up front, what the main instructions are. I talked to you about the answer sheet. I talked to you about the quiz, what you need to do. And the assignment description says it all again. So what I'm showing it here on the slides are also part of your assignment. So nothing is just here and not on your assignment. It should be pretty clear, but don't forget to kind of read through them just to make sure that you're not going to miss out on anything. Okay. And finally, make sure you clean up all your AWS services, right? Make sure you shut down your lab gracefully so that you're not going to incur a lot of credits, and that you'll save them for doing these labs again. And the rubric is pretty much based on your online quiz. So if you have really gone through your questions, you've gone through your quiz, and if your questions are all done correctly, trust me, there's no way that you can get less than 100 on the quiz. And Sheldon can again attest to that most of it could be, you could get it there with all the questions answered correctly. It's just you'll have to copy it on the quiz part. Okay. So anyway, so that's all for the questions. I hope I addressed everything that you had in mind about assignment 4. But any other questions or anything about assignment 4? Okay, I'll take that as a no. If not, thank you. Thank you, Chase and Sheldon, and good luck to you guys. It was nice working with you and your classmates in this class. This was a great class. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you again in case our paths meet again and across again. I'll be teaching again. I think in summer I'll be teaching the next course, which is Data 460. So in case you're around, and I may be teaching that in June, so I may see you guys there in case that's part of your curriculum, if you're going through that. So maybe we'll meet again there. But if not, good luck. We'll look forward to seeing you at the podium completing this degree. Good luck again. So if there are any questions, I can help you with anything about the course or your future courses or anything of that sort, you know where to reach me. Okay.
Duly noted. Thank you very much. 460 is the capstone course, right?
No, 460 is not the capstone. It's advanced data science. So no, the capstone is after that. I don't recall the number for that, but it's after that.
Okay. Because I think I'll be doing 440 and I guess 460 in the June session. So if you're teaching the June session, then I guess I will see you then.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to see you then.
All right.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you both. Good night. And thank you,
Professor. Thanks for everything.
Yes,
Sure,
thanks
thank
for
you.
everything.
Take care.
Be in touch.
And good luck.
Right. Have a
Okay.
good night.
Okay, bye.